Hello everyone, and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is There Are, After All, Other Rooms by Negative Net 9455. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street, and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I have to post this here, as I don't know where else to post it. I can't reach anyone. I'm in the bathroom. The door's locked, and I've shoved a bath towel into the gap between the bottom of the door and the floor. I'm a police officer. My local force covers a small English town and the outlying villages. Nothing of any note has happened here since Henry VIII stayed overnight a few centuries ago on his northern progression to York. My working life revolves around robberies, country line drug bust, and keeping the local youth out of the pubs. At 1:10 a.m., we got a typical shout, a robbery in one of the villages in the area. Me and Saj took it and headed off. She was driving, and she drives like an F1 driver, even without blues and twos on. And since we knew exactly where we were going, it only took us 10 minutes from the Mackeys to the address. We walked up to the front door to find it open and the lights on. Not unexpected, but I still gave it a good bellow of "Police officers!" as we entered, just in case the owner was behind the door with the cricket bat. No reply. So, who reported it? I glanced at Saj and saw she'd asked herself the same question. The front door opened straight into the living room, with stairs along the left wall going up to the top floor. It had been properly turned over, a right mess, except all the expensive electronics were still in the room. Widescreen TV, a dual-screen Mac, a PS5, a Bang & Olufsen soundbar, all the portable, easy-to-fence stuff that always went was still there. Maybe the owners, wherever they were, had been targeted by a crew who knew they had something specific hidden somewhere in the property. Jewelry maybe, rare paintings, valuable antiques. I remember Saj shaking her head. "This is weird," she said. I could only agree. She thumbed her airwave and asked Control to confirm the source of the report. Anonymous. "Gloves?" I said. Saj nodded, and we both put on our disposable gloves and made our way in, loudly repeating our presence for anyone inside to hear. Still no response. The front room gave way to a small dining room, which looked untouched. No surprise, as there was only a table and 4 dining chairs in it. Nothing worth nicking here. To the left of the dining room was the kitchen. We made our way in and saw it immediately. There was a body, face down on the floor. I see one adult female, white nightdress, long dark red hair, incredibly pale skin, maybe due to the fact that she was very obviously dead, or maybe it was her natural skin color. But she was so pale, she looked like what I imagine albinos to look like. Difficult to assess age, as you couldn't see much of her face, as her hair was covering it. I could tell her right cheek was flat to the floor, as I could make out the angle of her nose under the hair pointing off to her left. Her left arm was straight out alongside her body, palm up. Her right arm was crooked at the elbow, her right hand tightly clenched in a fist in front of her head. The knuckles facing us. I said something, can't remember what. Probably oh crap or bullocks or something like that. Yeah, said Saj. Right mess in here too, innit? I turned to stare at her. I mean, she was right. It was a mess. All the cupboards and drawers were open, and the glass in the back door was fractured. But she seemed to be missing the slightly bigger picture here. Namely, the dead body on the floor, less than 4 feet away from her. I meant that, I said, gesturing to the corpse, and looking at Saj like she lost her marbles. In response, she gave me a puzzled look and said, "What, the fridge?" Again, I stared at her, mouth open. It was true. It did look like I was pointing in the general direction of the fridge, if you ignore the fairly conspicuous corpse on the kitchen floor. No, you muppet. I mean, I stopped talking as I glanced back at the dead body, and goosebumps broke out all over me. The hand that had been a tight fist had uncurled its index finger as she was now pointing directly at me. I tried to speak, but my mouth had dried up. All that came out was a croak. I swallowed and tried again. "Saj, what do you see in front of the fridge?" She gave me a half-assumed, half-annoyed look and said, "Oh, you know, the usual for a kitchen floor. Lino." She couldn't see it. The dead woman on the floor that was now pointing at me. She couldn't see it. I lost it a bit then. My head was swimming, and I was suddenly aware I was trembling. There was a dead body that only I could see on the floor, and that dead body had moved. For the first time in my career, I had no idea what to do. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to run. I wish I could say I've gone crazy, but I haven't. I looked up at Saj as she took 2 steps into the kitchen. She leant forward, now with her back to me, and murmured, "Oh," in quite surprise. "You see it now?" I asked her. "You see her?" I looked back down at the dead woman. My heart leapt in my chest, and I took a huge staggering step backwards. Her head was now propped up on her chin. Flat yellow eyes stared at me. Saj softly spoke my name, and maybe it was that gentleness in her voice that cut through the incapacitating fear and allowed me to tear my eyes from that dead gaze. "What, Saj? What is it?" I couldn't see her face, just the back of her head and the curve of her jaw, but although she still spoke in that awful gentle murmur, I could hear her just fine. "There are, after all, other rooms," she said, and then she winked out of existence. Everything went away then. I have snatches of memories. The front door was now closed, running, doors that wouldn't open, windows I couldn't unlatch, tripping over the mess in the front door, screaming. I came back to myself after an unknown amount of time, as I was wailing and hammering the front room picture window with my ASP. My arm arched. Truncheons aren't particularly heavy, but swinging solid metal for a while is tiring. I needed to think, not about Saj, that was too much. Definitely not about her either. I can't seem to leave the house. No external door or window will budge or break. Then I remember my airwave. It was still on my stabby. I grabbed for it. No tone or clicks. 343 control. Receiving? Nothing. The unit itself made no feedback noises, and there was absolutely no noise on the line. Not even static. I tried a few more times, but I already knew no one could hear me. I got out my mobile and stared at the clock. It just read EEE, EEE, and the date was apparently dash dash. I tried calling the station, but tapping the number wouldn't even bring up the phone interface. It was the same for every number in my contacts. I did see, however, that I had mobile data, so I tried WhatsApp, but couldn't connect to anyone. I tried to send an email via Gmail, and it apparently sent. Haven't had any reply so far. The web sort of works. I can't reach any search engine. BBC looks strange, like it used to in the 2000s, but the colors were all wrong. This site seems to work though. I can't post comments, but I can read a few subs. Hopefully, I can make a new post. The kitchen light turned off, followed by the front room light. I heard myself making a moaning noise in the dark. My torch worked thankfully, and I trained it round the room, passing over the clutter of a ransacked room, until it was pointing at the door to the kitchen. Her hand was gripping the door frame, low down, like she crawled there. Her other hand was a claw on the carpet of the dining room. Both were dead white. I kept the beam trained on those hands for maybe 5 minutes. No movement. I couldn't stay here. I had to get out, but there was nowhere to go. I wasn't allowed to leave, and I couldn't watch her forever. I'd be caught. Then I thought of the bathroom. It would be small, but the door would be lockable. My torch beam was shaky, but I kept it on her hands as I backed away, until the stairs were next to me. Then I just turned and ran, taking them 2 at a time. The bathroom door was open. I could see the loo, so I just dived for it. As I turned to slam the door closed, my torch beam shone down the stairs, and I saw her at the bottom. Her dead yellow eyes met mine, absent of everything. With the door locked, I felt safer, and so here I sit, waiting for something. I don't know what. It's still dark outside, so I'm not sure how much time has passed. I'm not even sure time means much now. I'm very tired. I just tried typing the house address into the post box and couldn't. It stopped me. How can it know to do that? She's on the other side of the door. I had closed my eyes for a while. Again, I don't know how long for. I think I slept. Still dark. When I was wide awake again, I started wondering where she was. I thought about opening the door a crack, but I didn't have the courage, so I got on my hands and knees and peeped through the gap between the bottom of the door and the bathroom floor. The bathroom light doesn't work, so I shone my torch through, but it's run out of battery. How? They're supposed to last days, so I turned my phone's flashlight app on and used that instead. A hand was gripping the floor, and her eyes were above the level of the top stair. They're like insect eyes, alien and unknowable. I was weeping, fear and exhaustion. I grabbed the biggest bath towel in the room, rolled it into a tube, and shoved it into the gap between the door and the floor. Silly, but it did make me feel better. On the other hand, my phone's battery is on 3%. If I'm going to try and post this, I better do it soon. The only light now is what's coming off my screen. What's going to happen to me when the battery goes? She moves when you can't see her, and nobody can see in pitch darkness. I know I'm safe in a locked room, but I'm going to have to leave sometime. Going to post this now. Crawling on the other side of the door like a spider. Can't get out. She's coming through the door.